Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. 3 Steelers who should be cut after preseason week 2. The Pittsburgh Steelers are preparing for their 2024 preseason finale. In less than a week, Mike Tomlin and his staff will be forced to cut their team's roster from 90 players down to 53. Some decisions will be easier than others. Pittsburgh's offense couldn't get moving against the Buffalo Bills in Week 2 of the preseason, and there are plenty of fingers to point. Most of these hiccups will be fixed early in the season, but some players don't look like they belong on the NFL stage. The Steelers will need to get a great look at their players one final time in Pittsburgh's preseason finale against the Lions, but these players should be cut so that others with a chance of sticking around on the roster or practice squad can get added looks before roster cuts. The Quez Watkins experiment has been a nightmare for the Steelers. The speedster was underwhelming with the Eagles and has done nothing to give Pittsburgh's offense a spark. In addition to being non-existent in the passing game, Watkins was atrocious in his limited opportunities as a punt returner before the Steelers realized he could not help the team in that regard. Against the Bills in the preseason Week 2, the Steelers had 12 players catch at least one pass, but Watkins was not among them. He was targeted just once. The veteran wide receiver has only contributed negative plays so far in the preseason, and he's clearly behind fellow wide receivers Scotty Miller and Des Fitzpatrick. There's no sense in wasting valuable reps on Watkins in Pittsburgh's preseason finale, and the Steelers should cut him now so that he has a chance to land with another team. Outside of Pittsburgh's top 2 running backs, Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, no backup has been exceptional this summer. However, some have stood out more than others. Aaron Shampklin has not been one of them. With Jonathan Ward and Daijun Edwards popping off impressive runs in the first 2 preseason games, Shampklin has been just another face in the crowd. The Steelers should use the final game to decide if Ward, Edwards, or La'Mical Perine should be kept on the practice squad. Shampklin should be cut before the Steelers' preseason game against the Lions. The Pittsburgh Steelers have experienced some major issues with the offensive line in their first 2 preseason games, and things will need to get cleaned up in a hurry with the regular season just weeks away. Unfortunately, Anderson Hardy will not be part of the solution. You can etch the top 3 Steelers offensive tackles in stone: Troy Fautanu, Broderick Jones, and Dan Moore Jr. Outside of these 3, Dylan Cook is next in line, followed by Devery Hamilton. There's certainly no place for Hardy on the roster, and he hasn't shown enough to land on the practice squad. Considering how much we still need to see Broderick and the offensive line clean up their play in the preseason finale, the Steelers shouldn't waste reps on a player like Hardy, who will undoubtedly be cut a few days from now. 5 players Steelers must make room for on the 53-man roster. With roster cuts just days away, the Pittsburgh Steelers will soon make choices that will impact the direction of their future. Mike Tomlin and his staff will soon cut roughly 40% of their roster. The players they decide to keep will be the ones the team hopes to aid them to success in 2024. But roster decisions aren't so cut and dry. There are other factors to consider. Though the Steelers want to keep the 53 players who will help this team right away, they need to consider factors such as potential and projected development. If they keep the future in mind, these 5 players need to make the Steelers roster in 2024. CB Darius Rush. I've seen some in Steelers media argue for less talented players making the roster than Darius Rush. But 6 feet 2 inches, cornerbacks with 33 3/8 feet arms and 4.36 speed don't grow on trees. Rush may not be a finished product, but he's gotten better since arriving in Pittsburgh last year. At 24 years old with exceptionally rare traits for the CB position, the Steelers need to hang on to this high-upside cornerback. Rush has made some impressive plays in the preseason. He can offer a special teams presence until he develops enough to see sub-package work. Though he's not guaranteed to ever develop into a starter, Rush is a moldable ball of clay with all the traits and physical tools the Steelers could ask for. It would be foolish to cut him in order to keep a player at the bottom of the roster with far less upside. CB Corey Trice Jr. If the Pittsburgh Steelers are willing to keep throwing darts against the wall for big, athletic cornerbacks with upside, eventually they are going to find one that sticks. Even after missing his entire rookie season with an ACL injury, Corey Trice Jr. still looks like the player who got fans excited about a 7th-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. Trice has been a lockdown cornerback in the preseason, albeit against backup receivers and backup quarterbacks. At 6 feet 3 inches and 206 pounds, Trice still looks fast and explosive 1 year removed from an ACL tear. Trice's job doesn't appear to be in jeopardy, but choices will need to be made at the cornerback position. He and Trice are both ideal developmental prospects who should stick around on the Steelers roster. Wr Calvin Austin 3. I'm not as optimistic about Calvin Austin 3 as I once was. Despite his incredible speed and athletic traits, Austin's extreme lack of size at the wide receiver position will always be his Achilles heel. Regardless, Austin drew the short straw early in his career and deserves a fair shake. His rookie season was lost due to a foot injury that landed him on IR before his first preseason. Then in year 2, Austin was at the mercy of Matt Canada's offense, with quarterback Kenny Pickett at the helm. Austin is always going to have a small catch radius, but he's a much more natural receiver than most give him credit for, and his 4.32 speed and run-after-the-catch ability could be an asset to this team. He deserves one more season with the team to show what he can offer. DL DeMarvin Leal. I bought into the DeMarvin Leal hype back when the Steelers selected him in the 3rd round of the 2022 NFL Draft. The former Texas A&M star was a 5-star recruit and the number 3 overall recruit in the nation, according to 247 Sports. Unfortunately, Leal seemed to be stuck in between positions in a bad way early in his Steelers tenure, not big enough to hold up as a defensive tackle and too slow to be an edge rusher. Now in year 3, Leal may have finally found his groove. As one of the youngest players in the 2022 draft, Leal recently turned just 23 years old and has had an incredible summer with back-to-back strong preseason performances against the Texans and Bills. Insider, Steelers WR search continues after Brandon Aiyuk. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been in pursuit of Brandon Aiyuk for weeks now, and while the speculation flares up every few days, it's pretty quiet where things stand today. So, what if the San Francisco 49ers don't send the All-Pro wide receiver to Pittsburgh? There's just as likely as a chance the 49ers ink Aiyuk to a long-term deal, ending the chase for the Steelers and leaving the question, do they continue looking for a receiver? Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer believes the answer to that question is yes. After all the effort Pittsburgh put into acquiring Aiyuk, they've shown their hand that they would like to add someone to their wide receiver room before the season. And with roster moves coming fast as the final cut date approaches, Breer believes the Steelers will change course but continue on the same destination. I do think the Steelers will keep looking for options at wide receiver if the Brandon Aiyuk situation doesn't work out for them, Breer writes. And a sign of where they are at the position is how they rebuffed the San Francisco 49ers' request for a player as part of any potential trade, which is why the Niners looked around at potential second trades, moving one of the picks coming from Pittsburgh, if they'd decided to take the Steelers' offer, which was in the neighborhood of 2nd and 3rd round draft picks. The Steelers could bring back a familiar face in Juju Smith-Schuster, who was in play for them, according to sources. They may also begin calling other teams such as the Houston Texans, Tennessee Titans, Washington Commanders, and others. The team continues to praise Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, and others, but they have a clear fascination with adding to the room. Aiyuk remains their top choice, but if things don't work out, don't look at the Steelers as a finished product at receiver. Another move could be coming shortly after. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Brandon Aiyuk? Leave your opinion in the comments.